Now, it is a well-known fact that trail running has exploded over the last several years, and there are so many different types of trail running shoe models to choose from these days, and it can get pretty confusing. Also, I think you'll agree that running shoe prices have exploded over the last several years as well, especially with the rise of the trail super shoe. Now, what if I told you you could get a performance-driven trail shoe with a deeply cushioned VFOAM midsole and a lightweight, highly breathable, very durable MATRYX upper construction with a chunky, aggressive 5mm lug pattern on the outsole? And you can get all of that for a penny, under £120. Now, yeah, that is a good price point, and here it is. So it is the new Kiprun Race Ultra 2. Now, this is the brand's first attempt at a proper sort of super trail running shoe, and yes, they might be selling these for a good price point, but if they run like a bag of old spanners, then it's kind of a waste of time. So let's dive into the video, give you a few facts and figures about this new trail shoe, and then I'm going to be lacing them up and taking them out for a test run. So we are back today with another first impressions video. Really hope you enjoy it, really hope you find it helpful. But I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Hope everybody is fit and well out there in YouTube world and training is on track. Now, if you haven't come across the Kiprun brand before, it's basically the running division of Decathlon, a massive French sports retailer. And they've become known for, over the years, producing high quality, really affordable sporting goods, including running shoes. Now, I've tested out several pairs of running shoes from the Kiprun brand over the years, including road shoes and trail shoes. Now, I would say they've all been very good value and they've performed well, but none of them have kind of blown me away or been that exciting to run in. So I'm really hoping that this pair is going to change all of that today. But like I've already mentioned, they retail here in the UK for £119.99. My pair in a UK 9.5 tips the scales at 295 grams, so not a bad weight, under 300 grams for a deeply cushioned shoe that has been designed to run long distance. When it comes to the midsole, we get an 8mm offset on the heel. Moving on to the upper construction, and there are some impressive design features, especially when we take into consideration the price point of the Race Ultra 2. So like I've already mentioned, first up we get this lightweight, durable, highly breathable MATRYX EVO upper, and this is something normally reserved for much higher ticket price shoes, but we also get a booty style design with a quick lace system, again something that we'd normally see on much more expensive trail shoes. Obviously, with it being a booty upper design, the tongue area is pretty thin. Now, I would say there's a little bit of padding there, but not a lot of protection across the top of your foot for when you pull those laces down nice and tight. We've also got a little tongue pocket up the top there, and when I say little, it is very small, so it's actually quite fiddly to stow the laces away once you've pulled them down nice and tight. And we've got quite a few overlays on the shoe just for a bit of extra substance and durability, but unfortunately, not a lot of protection in the toe, so the upper is pretty soft up front. Up next is the VFOAM midsole setup, and this is claimed to be Kiprun's most advanced supercritical foam to date. Now, it's actually a blend of 90% EVA and 10% P-backs, and the brand also say that that should up the cushioning by 38% and energy return by 10% when you compare it against previous models. So big improvements all around there when it comes to midsole performance. Actually, when I push into it, it feels quite firm to touch, but obviously you only really know how that midsole is going to perform once you've got it under your foot and you're running. So I am looking forward to testing those claims out later in the video. And then finally, flipping them over to reveal a very good helping of blown rubber on the bottom, especially for a trail shoe that weighs under 300 grams. And we've also got this nice, chunky, aggressive 5mm lug pattern. So forward facing chevrons on the front to drive you along, reverse facing chevrons on the heel, just to give you that extra bit of bite and traction when you're running fast downhill. And there you go, the new performance racer from Kiprun, the Race Ultra 2. But now it's time for the fun part of the video. So let's get these on my feet, get them laced up and take them out for a test run. regular watcher of the channel, you've probably already worked out we have come back to the beautiful Tahiti Woods for the first run in the Race Ultra 2, and the beautiful weather continues here in Cornwall. We've got a lovely evening, blue sky and sunshine, which is great. I love running in this type of weather. Unfortunately, it means that the trails are very dry and we haven't got any sort of wet, muddy conditions to test out the outsole. However, that might be changing soon. So forecast for tomorrow and the day after are heavy winds and strong rain. As far as the shoes go, well, I would say they're true to size. So I went with my normal UK 9.5 and it's given me just the right length in the toe box. I would say quite narrow in the toe, and it does sort of pull into quite a point as well. The other thing I need to mention is, obviously it's a booty style upper, and sometimes that can be a struggle to get running shoes on with that style of upper, and this is no different. So the quick lace system is quite short, so it doesn't give you a lot of slack on the lace to open up the shoe. So I did have to fight my way into it, and you know, I haven't got a wide or deep foot. What I will say though, once you've got your foot in it, it is very secure. So it feels nice and tight around my midfoot, and I've got a good hold in the heel. Kiprun also sent me some of their apparel to run in. So I've got one of their technical short sleeve tees on. They also sent some very smart looking trail shorts. Unfortunately, I couldn't get them on. So this is a medium top. I'm pretty much a medium in all of my running kit, and these medium shorts were just super small. So like I said, I couldn't even pull them up to my waist. And to be fair, this t-shirt is pretty tight as well. So get in the comments, guys, if you're used to running in Decathlon's kit or Kiprun's kit, let me know how the sizing goes. Does it always size up small, or is it just these two items? So we are 2.5 miles into the run. We're going to try and get in our usual 7.5 to sort of 8 miles, because I think that's a great distance in a brand new shoe straight out of the box. So let's crack on, let's get this test run done. That was a short, sharp climb. That got the old calves burning and the lungs working hard. It's that time of year in the UK, so autumn, all the leaves are falling on the ground, so you've got to be super careful what you put in your feet. Okay, so we are heading back to the adventure bus, and we've just ticked over 6.3 miles, so it should be minimum of 7.5 tonight. So perfect distance for a new shoe straight out of the box, and the run's gone well. You know, shoes performed well, and that little sort of niggly foot problem I've been having has felt great on today's run. No issues at all. Like I mentioned when we were back at home, when I pushed into that midsole foam, it did feel quite firm, and I wouldn't say they're the softest, bounciest trail shoe I've ever run in, especially when you compare them to some of the sort of other ultra distance races on the market. But I wouldn't say they're firm either. I'd say they sit somewhere in the middle. Okay, I was going to sit the GoPro down for the next bit, but I've just broke my little handle. I seem to go through these so fast. They're proper GoPro official short handles, but they break on me all the time. But anyway, back to the video. So like I said, that midsole maybe isn't as soft as some shoes I've tested, but it's felt comfortable. But let's get this run done. Let's head back to the studio, and then we'll wrap up with a quick conclusion on how the Race Ultra 2 has performed out here in Tahiti Woods. So that is the first run in the Kiprun Race Ultra 2 ticked off, and it went well. Body felt really good, and I got to run on a big mix of terrain, and the shoes soaked it all up really well. And by the time we got back, I had clocked up 7.53 miles. So good distance in a brand new shoe. Now, there was quite a few features of the shoes that I really enjoyed, but there was a couple that I'm not so sure about. So let's dive into the conclusion and let's start off with all the good stuff first. I mentioned it earlier that I'm very impressed that the shoes come with a MATRYX EVO upper construction, especially when you take into consideration the RRP. And funnily enough, the upper performed really well out there on the run, which doesn't surprise me because I've always been a fan of MATRYX fabric. So no rubbing, no hot spots or anything like that. But also, because it is a booty construction, it did feel very snug wrapped around my foot. So a nice secure lockdown at the midfoot and a really good hold in the heel. So no slippage or movement. But I would like to see a little bit more padding worked into the tongue area. Now, obviously only ran 7.5 miles today, so no issues, but if I was heading out for a longer training run or lacing the shoes up for a tough long ultra marathon, then I think a bit more padding in that tongue area would just offer you a little bit more comfort across the top of your foot. The small zones of padding around the ankle collar seemed to do a good job. They added a nice level of plushness, but I think they also helped when it came to heel hold, and this MATRYX fabric was highly breathable out on the run today. But like I mentioned, I did really struggle squeezing my feet into these shoes. So I would say if you're overly wide and you've got a deep foot shape, then maybe you would struggle with these. One, because there's not a lot of slack in that quick lace system, so it doesn't give you a very big opening to get your feet into. And number two, you can see they do taper into quite a point in that toe box. So I think they're probably better suited to a narrow mid foot shape when it comes to width. And if you are overly wide, then maybe these aren't the best trail option for you. The 5mm lugged outsole did a great job when it comes to traction on the loose gravelly trails today. Obviously you could see from the footage, very dry, no mud to test out these lugs, but looking at the chunkiness and the depth and the layout, I actually think the outsole would perform well in muddy conditions. The one thing I would like to test is this rubber when it comes to levels of grip on wet rocky trails, because I think it is basically a sort of standard in-house rubber, and what with lots of trail shoes nowadays coming with super sticky Vibram Mega Grip rubber, I've kind of got used to feeling super confident on my footing in those types of conditions. So it'll be interesting to see how this rubber compares. So hopefully we'll get to test the outsole out on some wet, muddy conditions in the future. And then lastly, let's discuss midsole performance. And this is actually the area where I have a few things I'm not so sure about. So the guys at Kiprun call this a deeply cushioned trail shoe. And yes, we do get a deep stack of supercritical foam in that midsole, but I wouldn't say it's the softest or most cushioned foam I've come across, and especially when I compare it to some of those modern day high energy returning foams that we're getting used to nowadays, this feels maybe a bit more old school in performance. And you know, I personally think it's a very tough thing to do to create a high energy returning, top performing midsole foam when you're working on a tight budget, trying to keep the shoes as affordable as possible. However, I would say on the plus side of that, I did feel very planted and stable underfoot, which was actually a big help today because like I said, it's autumn here in the UK, so all the leaves are falling off the trees, so the trails were covered in them, and it did make it quite tricky to see what I was running on, especially when I was on the more technical rooted trails. But because this midsole is a bit firmer and it's not super soft, I felt really well connected and I had no issues at all. So that's definitely a plus side of a slightly firmer midsole. However, if I was taking on an ultra marathon, say 50k or above, then I would definitely want a bit more cushioning underfoot. Obviously, this is just my first run, and maybe it's one of those midsoles that needs a bit of bedding in and it will soften up over time. Or maybe there just needs to be a slightly different blend on that supercritical foam. Maybe 20% P-backs instead of 10% would give it a bit more of a cushioned, bouncy feel underfoot. Another thing, a quality pair of insoles inside a shoe really can make a difference. So a decent level of cushioning when it comes to an insole, because the ones that it comes with are quite budget looking, and you know, it really can make a difference. A perfect example of that is Innovate's brilliant boomerang footbeds. Now, you can have a shoe that feels firm, you slip them inside, and it really does lift the level of comfort just by having that small layer of plushness close to the foot. Really can elevate the whole shoe's performance. So wrapping up after today's first run in the Kiprun Race Ultra 2, and there's quite a few elements of the shoe that have really impressed me. Number one, having a quality, top performing MATRYX EVO upper that really did lock down and fit my foot shape really well. Also, I personally think this 5mm lugged outsole design would pretty much handle anything you throw at it, but I personally would like to have a bit more of a softer midsole, especially in a shoe that I was going to lace up and run long distances in. Now, I totally understand not everybody wants a super soft trail running shoe. So if you do like to feel the ground and have a bit more connection, then maybe the Race Ultra 2 is worth a closer look. And on that note, it brings today's video to an end. I really hope you've enjoyed hearing about Kiprun's new trail shoe, and I also hope you enjoyed coming out on the first run. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as it is a big help. Got to give a shout out to Kiprun for sending out the shoes and the apparel for the purpose of this video. It really is appreciated. And if you have any questions at all about the shoes or running in general, please feel free to get them in the comments below and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. But for now guys, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the channel, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. No rubbing, no hot spots, anything like that. And also it was number one being, because there's not a lot of slack in that lace, it doesn't give you much of an opening to pull your shoes into. And it gives great levels of sort of underfoot confidence.